Resuming debate, the honourable member for Parry Sound.
Muskoka.
Sorry, Parry Sound, Muskoka, yes.
Grant thy servant an understanding heart, that I may discern between good and evil. As I took my seat for the very first time in this House, the words of Solomon came to mind, seeking wisdom to lead. Here I was in this place, a place I had dreamt of many times, that maybe one day I would have the opportunity to sit in and represent my fellow citizens. Especially today, though, as I speak in this House about the chaos, the division, and the anger, not just in front of this place, but all across Canada, I hope for wisdom for myself and all my fellow members. Madam Speaker, leaders lead. They lead by inspiring those around them to greatness. They inspire a hope that tomorrow will be brighter than today. They lift everyone up, not just those who agree with them. They seek to bring people together, to give a voice to the voiceless, a seat at the table. Leaders stand up for every citizen, every Canadian, urban, rural, rich or poor, white collar, blue collar, right and left, regardless of their faith or creed, regardless of their place of origin. Leaders give every ounce of their being to ensure a legacy of prosperity and success for their fellow citizens. What we saw out front for the last 3 weeks was a failure of leadership. It was a failure of those entrusted by Canadians for that most solemn of tasks, to ensure that our kids will inherit a better future than we received, to ensure that the maple leaf is an undying symbol here and around the world of freedom, pluralism, justice, and democracy.
Hear, hear.
Madam Speaker, we're here today to talk about the Emergencies Act. I, like many of my colleagues in this House and millions of Canadians, believe that the use of this Act at this time is a dramatic overreach. You've heard from many members here about the consequences if the bar is lowered even just a little bit in the future use of this Act. I echo those concerns. The fact is, the protests had to end. Every Canadian has a right to peaceful protest, but we do not have a right to park a truck in the middle of a city street for 3 weeks. Just as we have a right to disagree with those who have chosen not to get vaccinated, but we don't have a right to call them racists or misogynists. I believed my doctor when he told me that vaccination is the best tool, not the only tool, but the best tool to protect my health and my neighbors against COVID-19. I also believed my doctor when he told me that when we reach 85 to 90% of vaccination rates, we should be able to start getting our lives back. And we see that starting to happen now. The fact is, Canada is among the most vaccinated countries on earth. And yet there are some of our fellow citizens who simply will not get vaccinated. We need to be okay with that. While I understand some of the reasons I have heard for vaccine hesitancy, I don't understand all of them. And I don't need to. I don't need to understand my fellow citizens' medical choices to defend their fundamental right to make those choices.
Hear, hear.
That's the beauty of this country. You get to make your own health choices. We don't impose draconian measures on the people we disagree with. And it's also why I echo the words of Pierre Elliott Trudeau when he said, "For if individuals and minorities do not feel protected against the possibility of the tyranny of the majority, it is useless to ask them to open their hearts and minds to their fellow Canadians." Madam Speaker, this debate should never have had to happen.
Exactly.
Truckers should never have had to park their trucks in front of Parliament. The divisive rhetoric and demonizing of a minority of Canadians by their own government, whatever the intention, was quite simply disgusting. This is clearly not the first time the political class has used our differences of opinion to divide us for political gain, and it likely will not be the last. We have stopped talking to each other. We're all guilty of it. We listen to our party war rooms on how the polls show us we can slice and dice the electorate to our advantage. We say we have a desire to listen to each other, and then we go on the partisan attack. And the actions we take right here in this House directly translate to how we treat each other as Canadians. I don't know if those of us who sit in the privilege of this place in our fancy suits, surrounded by deferential security guards calling us sir and ma'am, truly understand the anger and the frustrations. So many Canadians feel their hopes and their dreams slipping further and further away. They yearn for politicians to simply talk about their issues, to genuinely represent them. The contractor in Swift Current, the single dad in Delta, the fisherman in St. Margaret's Bay, the police officer in Yellowknife, the student in Brandon, they don't care how good our partisan shot was in question period. They don't care how many retweets our clip got. They certainly don't care how much we've out-fundraised our opponents. They just want to know their politicians are working for them. They want to know that their leaders care about their livelihoods, that we care as much about their industry as they do. They want to know we're fighting as hard as we can for them to not have to choose between putting the kids in hockey or food on the table. They want to know that they'll be able to own a home, that they can raise a family and a community their kids can come back to, and where they can retire in dignity. They want to know their government is well managed and ethical, delivers excellent services. It'd be nice if their government was just boring. They want to celebrate our great country and the everyday heroes who make this the most magnificent nation on earth. They want us, Madam Speaker, they need us to be here every day, seeking, striving, to build our fellow citizens up and bring people together. We need to stop being politicians and start being leaders. We were elected to represent our communities, tell the hard truths, and work hard on behalf of our people. We weren't sent here to listen to what the focus groups say or what the polls might say. We weren't sent here to represent only those people who put up our lawn signs. We weren't sent here to appeal to the lowest common denominator. We were sent here to raise it. Canadians don't think of their communities as target seats. It's their hometown, where everyone is a neighbor, where everyone deserves strong representation in this House. You know, there's a lot of folks in downtown Toronto and Montreal who want lower taxes. There's a lot of people in rural Alberta who are proud of and really want a strong, publicly funded healthcare system. There's a lot of people in Vancouver who are fed up with vaccine mandates, and a lot of people in Regina who are eager to welcome another new Canadian to their community. There's plenty of Quebecers who want to use Canadian energy, and there are thousands of folks in Manitoba who are proud of their union membership. You see, outside this Ottawa bubble, Canadians are one people, one nation, all working to build a country we can be even more proud of tomorrow than we were yesterday. We're a nation 38 million strong, all yearning, striving for a country where everyone has a place, where everyone has a shot at success. A country where we might not always agree on every issue, but we always agree that we live in the greatest country on the world, and that we deserve a government that is not all things to all people, Madam Speaker, but where we can all come together and no one gets left behind. This is a country where you can be anything you want to be and do anything you want to do. We can give a job to those without one. We can ensure our next generation can afford a home. We can eradicate poverty. We can come together again. We can break down the walls that divide us and help heal this broken nation, all with an understanding heart. And Mr. Speaker, it starts with all of us in this House. Canadians are counting on our leadership. My message to the Prime Minister and to every one of us in this House is simple. Listen to those you disagree with. Be willing to compromise. Let's work together to build on the common cause of bringing Canadians together, to celebrate all that unites us. And to everyone else, let's tone down the heat. Let's be open to hearing opinions other than our own, and let's try to see ourselves on the other side. This is Canada. We can disagree without hating each other. Madam Speaker, there is nothing wrong with Canada that cannot be fixed with everything that is right about Canada. Let's cut down the partisan personal attacks and ideological entrenchment. Let's start listening to each other and to our communities rather than the political operatives who use the differences between us to stoke fear and anger in the name of winning a few more votes. Let's hold each other to the same standards that Canadians hold their neighbors, which is to say, we should expect compassion, respect, courage, and character from one another. If we can do that, then we will start to bring this country back together again, because that's what leaders do. And Canada needs leaders right now. This is a critical time. We need only look south of the border to see the polarizing effects of a divisive political culture and culture war. Let us demand excellence from ourselves Let us choose what Lincoln called the better angels of our nature. Let us go forward together, building each other up, bringing Canadians from all walks of life together in the mutual cause of Canada, our beloved true north, strong and free. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Wow. Questions and comments? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of National Revenue.
Thank you, Madame la Présidente. And I just wish to say to the member from Parry Sound, Muskoka, I really liked your speech today, and I liked the tone and the call for unity. And to be frank, I would have expected nothing less from having, in the last few months, gotten to know this member of Parliament, who I know represented his constituents now, not only at the federal level, but also at municipal, and who I count as a friend, both today as a parliamentarian and in the future when I may not be in this House, hopefully in about 10 or 15 years. So with that, I do, he quoted Lincoln, and that obviously gives me utmost respect, and anybody knows about history. But I will ask this member, we are having a debate on the Emergencies Act, and it is time limited, it is proportionate, it has gotten the job done, and I wanted to get this member's view on that. Thank you, Madame la Présidente.
Honourable Member for Parry Sound, Muskoka.
Well, I want to thank my colleague for this gracious comments and kind words, and the feeling is certainly quite mutual. I think that very specifically in this moment, I think it is an overreach. But I think you heard from me that what concerns me more than anything else is decades of a political discourse in this country that is designed to divide us. And all parties are guilty of it. And I'll say to anyone who served in municipal politics, if we ever behaved in municipal politics the way we behave in this House, we wouldn't be in office very long. It's disgusting. And it's ripping this country apart. And it breaks my heart. And we need to do better. So thank you.
Questions and comments. The Honourable Member for Montcalm. Thank you, Madam Speaker. The proclamation of the Emergencies Act is the last act that the executive power can impose out of respect for the representatives of the legislative power, that is us. Could my colleague, or does my colleague not think that given the gravity of the situation and what is at stake, that there should be a free vote on this issue?
Member for Parry Sound, Muskoka.
Well, I thank my colleague for the question, and I'll admit to being surprised. I wasn't expecting that, but I think that it absolutely should be. I think that there should be more free votes in this place, frankly, and so I would just simply say yes, I agree.
Hear, hear.
Questions and comments. The Honourable Member for London Fanshawe.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I truly want to thank the Honourable Member across for his honest and heartfelt remarks in this House. We've heard a lot of rhetoric here over the last few days, and I know that I've certainly been impacted by it, exhausted at the end of the day, taken down by it. Often a former leader of the NDP has been named in this House and used against us in that division and divide, and so I want to thank him for quoting Jack Layton just now in terms of saying that Canada needs to be a place where no one is left behind, and that provides me with a lot of hope. And I agree that this is beyond something of just vaccine mandates, that this is about economic divisions that we have in our country, and the fact that people are terrified that they don't know where or how they're going to pay for the food that they need to for their kids or their mortgage. So I simply want to say to him that I stand ready to work with him to make this a better place for Canada, and I hope that we can continue to work together in that fashion. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Member for Parry Sound, Muskoka has 1 minute to respond.
I probably don't need a minute, but I want to thank my colleague for the comments, and I think that's the kind of message that Canadians need to hear more of is those of us on all sides of this House seeking to work together. And I admit I had an exchange just last night in the lobbies with the member for Edmonton Strathcona, and it got heated, and I realized that I was guilty of arguing with her in the same way that I was about to speak today, and I regretted it. And I exchanged an email with her this morning to apologize for that, because it's easy to get caught up in the passions of this place.